The Galactic Empire called it a peacekeeping operation. The broadcast opened with orchestral music and a gleaming insignia. 3 suns encircling a silver crown. The anchor, a lilac-skinned Thraxian with an overly bright smile, announced that a group of violent Terran agitators had been safely neutralized on the border colony of Vorn 17. The camera panned across burning shelters, then froze on the words, "Order restored." In a quiet corner of the diplomatic sector, the sound of that same broadcast played on a cracked holoscreen above a coffee machine. A faint hiss punctuated the silence every few seconds as steam rose and condensed on cold metal. Captain Evelyn Cade, 30 years old, Earthborn, polite to the point of discomfort, sat cross-legged in a chair too small for her. Her reflection swam in her cup like an eclipse. She watched the footage of armored troopers dragging civilians into transports. None of the victims looked familiar. Not yet. But she already knew. The Empire always began with someone else's tragedy before circling back to yours. The clerk at the counter, a bright-eyed insectoid, cleared his throat. "Another cup, Captain?" Evelyn smiled, a gentle, human curve that could melt or unnerve, depending on who received it. "One more. Keep the change." The clerk hesitated. The Empire says it was just an accident. Crossfire. They don't mean harm." Her eyes lifted slowly, the blue of them glacial and unreadable. "Accidents happen," she said softly, "especially when no one survives to contradict them." The holoscreen's light flickered against the stainless walls. The newscaster's tone brightened. "Our Emperor extends condolences to the Terran Republic and assures them that justice will be swift." Evelyn sipped, expression serene. When the screen finally went black, she murmured, "Swift, I can do." Outside, the interstellar capital of Zephyr Prime glittered like a chandelier hung over a pit. Towers stretched into clouds of neon dust. Shuttles darted between them like fireflies. Every species imaginable moved through the avenues, scaled, furred, feathered, each convinced they represented the civilized order of the galaxy. Humans walked among them like tolerated pets, unpredictable, dangerous in theory, harmless in practice. Evelyn's boots clicked against the pavement as she crossed the boulevard toward the embassy tower. Her uniform was plain black, no medals, no insignia, just a faint smell of gun oil that refused to wash out. 2 Vorlon guards stopped her at the gate, telepathic eyes gleaming. "Identification," one said. She handed over her chip and added pleasantly, "Careful with that. It bites." The Vorlon blinked, confused. "Devices don't bite." "Neither did humans," she replied, stepping past as the gate hissed open. The Earth Embassy was a quiet anomaly in the district. No ostentatious architecture, just a simple concrete facade flown in from some long-dead factory. Inside, a single Terran diplomat waited behind a polished desk. He was sweating through his collar. "They called an emergency council," he said, voice low. "Vorn 17, they claim your family was part of a smuggling ring." Evelyn stopped moving. Her coffee cup trembled just once before she set it down. "My husband and sons," she said, "smugglers." He swallowed. "They're saying it was a misunderstanding. But the footage, there was resistance. They shot them." The words landed flat, clinical, as if she were analyzing someone else's wound. He nodded. "The council will open with apologies. They want you there. It's protocol." She smiled faintly. Protocol is my favorite language. When she arrived at the council hall, the room smelled of flowers and ozone. Representatives of 12 species sat around a translucent table. The Thraxian chancellor, scales polished to mirror brightness, began with a carefully rehearsed tone. "Captain Cade, we extend the Empire's deepest sympathies. It appears your kin were caught amid civil disorder. Such is the price of maintaining peace." Evelyn inclined her head. "A high price. I assume you'll reimburse the cost." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "Reimburse," one alien hissed. She folded her hands. "Humans usually send flowers when they kill a family. You might start there." A pause. The chancellor tried again, forcing a smile. "We shall conduct a full investigation." "Of course," she said sweetly. "I look forward to the report. Will you interview the dead?" One of the Vorlon telepots leaned forward, voice silky. "We understand grief manifests as aggression in your species. It is primitive but forgivable." Evelyn's eyes flicked toward him. Forgiveness is an interesting word coming from a mind reader who can't look me in the eyes for more than 3 seconds. The Vorlon flinched, breaking contact. Around the table, the tension thickened like cooling metal. She rose gracefully. "I appreciate your condolences, truly. Now if there's nothing else, I'll be taking a few personal days for reflection." The Chancellor nodded quickly. "Yes, of course. Time heals." She walked out without a backward glance. Behind her, murmurs turned to arguments. Humans, unpredictable, must be monitored. Outside the hall, the corridors stretched silent and blue. Her footsteps echoed as she descended toward the docking bays. Every step was measured, her breathing even. On the lower deck, an old cargo vessel waited, paint peeling, hull scorched. The nameplate read Honey Badger. Inside, the ship smelled of ozone, coffee, and gunmetal. The onboard AI flickered awake as she entered. "Captain Cade," it said in a voice like gravel and laughter, "you look like you're about to do something profoundly stupid." "Possibly," she replied, running her hand along the console. "How's the fuel?" "Half a tank. Enough for a bad idea and a long chase." "Good." The AI hesitated. "Evelyn, this isn't a sanctioned op. The Republic can't protect you." She stared out through the viewport at the city's glowing spires. "They took my family," she said quietly. "No one can protect them either." "Orders." She smiled soft and sharp. "Pack light. Bring everything that kills." Engines hummed to life, trembling through the hull like a heartbeat returning after shock. The docking clamps released with a hiss, and the Honey Badger drifted free. Through the window, the capital receded, a jewel set in darkness, pretending to be pure. She poured the last of her coffee into the void, watching it crystallize against the cold glass. "Empire says it was an accident," the AI murmured. Evelyn buckled in, voice steady. "So's what happens next?" The ship rotated toward the stars. Thrusters ignited. Somewhere beyond the horizon, Vorn 17 burned on. Inside the cabin, the reflection of her face merged with the constellation ahead, her eyes twin embers in the dark. "Let's go hunting," she whispered. And for the first time since the broadcast began, the galaxy felt afraid. The Honey Badger drifted between dying stars, its hull patched with mismatched plates, like a veteran wearing its scars with pride. Inside, Captain Evelyn Cade sat at the console, her expression unreadable in the blue glow of 1,000 monitors. Space shimmered around her, silent, infinite, and merciless. Somewhere beyond, the Galactic Empire spun its propaganda, still unaware that something human, patient, and feral had begun to move. The AI's gravelly voice broke the stillness. "You've been staring at those coordinates for 30 minutes, Captain. Planning vengeance or poetry?" "Both," she murmured. A door clanked open behind her, spilling laughter and the smell of engine grease. Mara Tran, the ship's engineer and former Marine, ducked through the hatch. A stocky woman in her 30s with arms like scaffolding and a tattoo of a wrench circling her neck. She carried a mug that said "Best Mechanic in 3 Galaxies, voted by me." "You called me out of cryo for a rescue mission, not a suicide note," Mara said, slamming the mug onto the console. "What's the job, boss?" Evelyn didn't turn. "The job is vengeance. The cover is humanitarian aid." "Sounds honest." Mara grinned, pulling up a chair. "So who are we saving from extinction today, us or them?" Before Evelyn could answer, a hologram flickered on the central console. Dax Rilo, the ship's systems hacker, appeared mid-chew, eating noodles from a cup. His blonde hair stuck up like he'd wrestled gravity and lost. "Captain," he said around a mouthful, "I tapped into the Empire's shipping logs. Turns out Vorn 17's cleanup crew is still orbiting the ruins. Small garrison, 3 frigates, 0 imagination." Evelyn looked up, voice smooth as glass. "Perfect. They'll never expect a garbage scow." Mara snorted. "You planning to bluff an entire fleet?" "I'm planning," Evelyn said, "to introduce them to Plan B." "Plan B being?" She smiled faintly. "Improvisation." The AI chuckled darkly. Ah, the Terran doctrine. An alarm beeped softly, proximity sensors catching the glint of ships ahead. The viewport filled with light, Imperial patrol cruisers neat and proud, forming a blockade around the scorched world below. Evelyn's family's world. Her jaw flexed once. Mara, power down non-essential systems. Dax, make us look like a broken hauler. Hutch, broadcast the distress signal. Already on it, said the AI. Its tone dripped with mock enthusiasm. Shall I add crying noises for realism? Use yours, Mara muttered. The radio crackled. Unidentified vessel. This is Imperial Patrol Command. State your purpose. Evelyn leaned close to the mic, soft and polite. This is Honey Badger Freight, carrying food aid for civilian survivors. Our navigation's failing. We'd appreciate not dying today. A pause. Then laughter through static. Human vessel. Aid delivery requires authorization. Hold position or be fired upon. Evelyn's fingers danced across controls. Copy that command. Holding position. She cut the transmission, voice cold now. Mara. Dax. Commence Plan C. Mara sighed, cracking her knuckles. Plan C. The loud one. Dax grinned, spinning his chair. On your mark, Captain. From the honey badger's belly, compartments unfolded like wings. Scrap metal panels rotated, revealing weapon mounts that looked cobbled together from old wars and bad ideas. Dax's hands moved in a blur, rerouting reactor power. The ship shuddered. The Imperial commander's laughter turned to alarm. Unidentified vessel, you are armed. Correction, Evelyn said, pressing the trigger. We're improvising. The first salvo screamed across the void, ripping through one cruiser's shields in a burst of blue fire. The second shot wasn't aimed at ships at all. It hit the orbital relay, flooding the comm network with white noise and Terran rock music. Guitars wailed through open frequencies, a defiant anthem echoing across the vacuum. Dax, Evelyn shouted, broadcasting back in black, on every Imperial channel, ma'am. Mara hooped. Now that's diplomacy. The honey badger darted between the cruisers like a wasp among elephants. Missiles arced past, detonating in bursts of gold. Evelyn moved with eerie calm, every motion precise, every command surgical. Inside, sweat streaked Mara's forehead. Shields at 40%. You sure you want to play chicken with warships? Evelyn's voice stayed soft. They've never met a creature that bites after playing dead. The AI growled. Captain, 2 bogeys on our 6. Recommend evasive. Negative. Dax, reroute life support to engine burst. That'll suffocate us. Not if we end this fast. The honey badger spun, thrusters flaring white-hot, then dove straight into the path of the nearest cruiser. The enemy's sensor screamed, too late. Evelyn flipped the ship upside down, releasing a cluster of magnetic mines that clamped to the cruiser's hull like barnacles. A beat later, detonation. The explosion bloomed silently, swallowing the ship in red dust. Mara exhaled through clenched teeth. Remind me to never argue with you sober. Evelyn's lips barely curved. Noted. The last cruiser tried to flee. Evelyn, let it. We need witnesses, she said. Legends travel faster than ships. Minutes later, the battlefield was still. Only drifting wreckage and the ghost of music remained. Evelyn turned from the viewport, eyes shadowed. Dax whistled low. You just made the Empire's most wanted list. Congratulations. She ignored him, kneeling beside a scorched holodisk recovered from the debris. When she activated it, the image flickered. Her husband holding their sons by the hand, smiling in the soft light of Vorn 17's dawn. The recording ended with static. Mara shifted uncomfortably. You sure you want to see that? I already did, Evelyn said, voice like gravel ground to dust. Silence hung thick, broken only by the hum of the engines. Then she stood, shoulders straight. They killed my family for order. Let's see how they handle chaos. The AI chuckled. Captain, you realize this little stunt will start a war. Evelyn gazed at the stars. Then let's make it educational. Far below, sensors showed the planet's surface dotted with fires. the Empire's forgotten victims, burning under the illusion of control. Above them, the honey badger turned away, disappearing into the black between systems. Dax leaned back, smirking. "What's next, boss?" Evelyn's voice softened, almost tender. "We find their supply lines, their secrets, their gods, if they have any. Then we remind them what humans do when cornered." Mara raised a brow. "And what's that?" Evelyn's smile returned, slow, dangerous, beautiful. "We stop pretending to be civilized." The ship's lights dimmed, engines humming low like a beast purring before a hunt. Out there, the Galactic Empire would soon search for a terrorist, a monster, a ghost in human skin. But inside the honey badger, laughter and resolve mingled in the recycled air. They weren't running. They were waking up. The AI spoke again, softer this time. "Captain, you really think 3 humans can fight an empire?" She adjusted her collar, watching the stars blur into streaks of light as the jump drive charged. "Three's a crowd. But legends? Legends don't count heads." The ship vanished into hyperspace, leaving only static and a faint echo of human music behind. A promise whispered into the dark. The honey badger doesn't die. It just gets angry. The Galactic Empire met its first silence in 1,000 years. No proclamations, no broadcasts, no victory hymns. Only static filled the channels, where once the Emperor's voice dripped with certainty. Somewhere in that static, a human laugh echoed, a small, impossible sound that made admirals sweat and clerks pray to gods they didn't believe in. In the capital's war hall, 12 alien generals hovered around a floating map. The holographic grids flickered with red warnings as sectors went dark, one after another. "They've disrupted 7 trade routes in 3 weeks, hissed a Thoraxian commander, claws tapping the table. "Freighters vanish without trace. Dockyards report human saboteurs." A Vorlon telepath interrupted, voice trembling. "Not saboteurs, ghosts. I've tried reading their minds. Every time I connect, He stopped, hand shaking. "All I feel is laughter." The room fell quiet. Then the hollow lit up, showing a scarred freighter, the Honey Badger. Its hull seemed to grin under scorch marks, the name painted crudely across the side like graffiti. Beneath it, 3 human faces flickered. Evelyn Cade, Maratran, Dax Rilo. Each tag armed. "Dangerous. To be terminated on sight." "They're just one ship," muttered a SYTH call admiral, metallic voice tinged with unease. "How is that possible?" The Thoraxian slammed a clawed hand on the table. "It's not the ship. It's the species." Halfway across the galaxy, Evelyn sipped coffee while watching an orbital refinery crumble through binoculars. The explosion flared like sunrise, illuminating her face in orange fire. Dax, sitting beside her, munched on cold noodles. "You know," he said, "for someone avenging her family, you're awfully calm about property damage." Evelyn's reply was quiet. "Property can be rebuilt. Empires can't forget fear." Mara snorted from the pilot seat. "You sure you're not secretly writing philosophy books in your spare time?" "Not yet," Evelyn said. "Maybe after the galaxy stops trembling." Their laughter filled the cockpit, absurd and alive amid ruin. But behind that laughter, the war was shifting. Planet by planet, the Honey Badger's legend grew. It wasn't just the destruction. It was the messages left behind. Broadcasts of Terran lullabies distorted into eerie echoes, coins stamped with the symbol of a human skull wrapped in ivy, graffiti scrawled across bases. Yaga was here. Rumors spread like wildfire. Soldiers whispered of a woman in black armor who walked through flames untouched, who spared survivors only to haunt their dreams. Others claimed the Honey Badger could vanish between stars, bending light itself out of fear. In truth, Evelyn was simply clever. She never attacked the same way twice. One day she'd bribe dockworkers with chocolate. The next, she'd hack a cruiser's AI using nothing but a nursery rhyme. The Empire's generals fought chaos with bureaucracy, and chaos was winning. By the 3rd month, the Emperor convened his inner circle. The meeting chamber glowed crimson from morning lights. "Enough humiliation," he said, his voice as calm as a blade. "Humanity will be taught obedience." No one dared argue. But a small creature near the back, a tiny, feathered diplomat from the Leary species, spoke trembling words. Your Majesty, they are unpredictable. Perhaps negotiation. The Emperor smiled, cold and patient. We do not negotiate with predators pretending to be prey. He ordered the Purge Directive. Entire human sectors were to be quarantined. Trade cut off. Colonies starved until they begged for mercy. The Emperor believed fear would break them. Instead, it sharpened them. On a mining moon, an enslaved human engineer rigged his captor's generator to explode, right as the honey badger arrived to smuggle the survivors. On another world, alien soldiers discovered crates of food stamped with Earth's insignia, distributed freely to anyone who turned against the Empire. Every act of defiance whispered the same thing. Baba Yaga is coming. Back on the honey badger, Dax was buried under wires, cursing in 5 languages. Their new encryption is ridiculous, he grumbled. Like they hired paranoid wizards. Then be a bigger wizard, Mara teased, welding a panel overhead. Sparks fell like golden rain. Evelyn watched them quietly. For a fleeting moment, she saw her husband smile in Dax's reckless grin, her son's curiosity in Mara's eyes. The ghosts traveled with her, not haunting, but guiding. We're close, she said softly. They'll make a mistake soon. And they did. The Empire released a statement meant to reassure its citizens, an announcement that the honey badger had been destroyed in Sector 9. Every news outlet carried it. The footage showed debris floating through space, a charred piece of hull, with the word honey barely visible. The galaxy exhaled. Markets reopened. Propaganda declared human menace eliminated. But 3 days later, every Imperial broadcast station was hijacked. Screens across 1,000 worlds flickered to life, showing Evelyn standing before a backdrop of stars. She smiled warmly. Rumors of my death, she said, are adorable. Then the feed cut to images of the Empire's own war crimes. Executions, torture, cities erased. Each clip stamped with coordinates and the line, "Your justice begins here." Panic rippled through the hierarchy. Governors turned on admirals. Admirals blamed ministers. Ministers accused spies. The Empire fractured under the weight of its own lies. On a distant moon, a group of alien officers gathered around a bonfire of burning uniforms. One raised a toast. "To the human devil," he said bitterly. "May she never find us." "She already has," said a voice behind them. They turned. Evelyn stepped into the firelight, calm and smiling. The officers reached for weapons. She raised her hands. "Relax. I'm not here to kill you. I'm here to give you a choice." Choice, one spat. "Yes," she said. "You can die fighting an empire that eats its own children. Or you can live helping me burn it down." They hesitated. The fire crackled. Then, one by one, they lowered their weapons. By dawn, the base had switched allegiances. Another world turned gray on the Imperial maps. Another rumor spread, that Baba Yaga could charm you before she killed you, or worse, convince you to join her first. Evelyn returned to the ship as the sun rose over the alien horizon. The light hit her armor, painting it gold. Mara watched from the ramp. "You just converted an entire regiment," she said. "What do we even call that?" "Tuesday," Evelyn replied. Dax laughed until he choked. "You're terrifying, Captain." She smiled faintly. "That's the goal." But when she looked toward the stars, her expression changed. For the first time, she looked tired, not of fighting, but of remembering why she began. Her family's faces flickered behind her eyes. The warmth of their laughter felt impossibly far away. Mara noticed the silence. "You okay?" Evelyn didn't answer. She simply whispered, almost. The calm light blinked. A transmission, Imperial seal, high priority. Evelyn tapped it open. The Emperor's voice filled the cabin, rich and venomous. "Human," he said, "you have my attention. Enjoy it while it lasts." Evelyn leaned back, calm and unreadable. "Careful what you wish for, Your Majesty. You might just get the whole species." The screen went black. The honey badger accelerated into darkness, its engines glowing like twin blue eyes in the void. eyes that promised the Empire's sleep was over. The imperial capital burned like a dying sun. From orbit, its oceans reflected fire, and its skies trembled under the weight of collapsing fleets. Every screen across the galaxy showed the same haunting image: the honey badger, scarred and luminous, descending toward the palace spire through a storm of debris. Inside, Captain Evelyn Cade moved with unhurried precision, her armor blackened, her expression as calm as the void that birthed her vengeance. "Hutch," she said quietly, strapping the rifle across her back. "Status." The AI's voice crackled through smoke and static. "Shields are gone, engines dying. I'd give us 5 minutes before gravity gives us a very personal introduction to the palace courtyard." "Perfect," she murmured. "Just enough time for manners." Mara's voice came from the corridor, ragged but steady. "If this is about diplomacy again, I'm staging a mutiny." Dax followed, limping, his hands black with coolant. "We fried half their orbital cannons. You realize that makes us the most wanted and the most efficient criminals in history." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Efficiency is the only revenge the universe respects." The ship shook violently. Outside, the capital's anti-air batteries opened fire, lacing the clouds with molten light. Each blast lit Evelyn's face in sharp relief: the warrior and the widow, the tactician and the ghost. The AI's tone softened. "Evelyn, you don't have to do this." "Yes," she said, eyes on the burning city. "I do. They have to see the face they made." When the ship finally struck atmosphere, it screamed like a fallen god. They rode the descent through turbulence and fire, strapped into chairs that trembled as metal tore from bone. At the last moment, Hutch diverted power to thrusters, slamming them into the palace garden in a thunder of shrapnel and steam. Silence followed. Then the hatch hissed open, and smoke rolled outward into the night. Evelyn stepped into a world that no longer recognized its own order. Statues lay shattered. The imperial banners burned, their silver crowns curling into ash. She walked between them like a ghost attending her own funeral. Mara and Dax fell in behind her, coughing through the haze. "Captain," Dax muttered, "you sure the Emperor's still here?" "Oh, he's here," Evelyn said softly. "Men like him always stay for the fireworks." Inside the palace, the halls glittered with broken mirrors and blood. Guards lay unconscious, their weapons twisted by electromagnetic bursts. The trio moved in silence, footsteps echoing like memories. At the great throne chamber, the doors opened without resistance. The Emperor waited alone, sitting amid ruin, his robes torn but his posture impeccable. Around him, fires reflected in the marble floor like dying stars. "So," he said, voice steady, "the Butcher of Vorn, 17, finally visits my home." Evelyn inclined her head slightly. "You killed my family, called it order. I returned the favor, called it balance." He studied her face, almost curious. "I wanted to understand what drives your species. What rot hides behind your smiles. Now I see it, it's grief." She took a step closer. "You see wrong. It's memory." His eyes narrowed. "You've destroyed fleets, assassinated governors, collapsed my economy. And for what? To make the galaxy fear you. To make them remember we were never yours to tame." He rose from the throne, towering in stature, but hollow in presence. "Then finish it, human. The story demands blood." Evelyn looked around. The shattered pillars, the flames clawing up the walls. Her voice softened. "You think this is the ending? This is just the realization." With one motion, she tapped the device on her wrist. All across the Empire, millions of dormant systems blinked awake. Sleeper AIs, old Earth algorithms buried inside trade routes, weather grids, and entertainment streams. Every one of them now obeyed a single line of code: Operation Honey Badger. Screens across the galaxy erupted with a single symbol: a white skull encircled by ivy. Below it, text appeared in hundreds of languages: "We tried peace first." The Emperor's expression faltered. "What have you done?" "Reminded your worlds who really built your empire," she said. "Humans weren't conquered. We were hired. You just forgot what happens when employees stop pretending to like their bosses." His fury broke. "You'll destroy everything. Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. Good. Maybe the next order will remember kindness before conquest. He lunged, blade drawn, fast despite his age. She sidestepped easily, striking his wrist. The blade clattered to the floor, sparking. For a moment, they faced each other in silence, the predator and the consequence. You could kill me, he said, chest heaving. Become what you claim to hate. Evelyn looked down at him, eyes like winter. Killing you would make you a martyr. Letting you live makes you a warning. She turned away, leaving him kneeling in the firelight. Behind her, the palace trembled as explosions echoed across the city. Mara's voice came over comms, strained. Captain, we've triggered half the network. The other half's feeding itself into chaos. You want us to pull back? Evelyn walked through the crumbling archway, watching the sky fracture with falling ships. Yes. Let them rebuild on what they've learned. Dax's voice cut in softer. And what have we learned, boss? That humanity's biggest weapon, she said, was never violence. It was patience. They emerged into the open air. The honey badger lay broken in the courtyard, smoke curling from its engines. Mara ran a hand across its hull. She's done. Evelyn touched the metal gently. No, she's remembered. They climbed aboard the wrecked freighter. Hutch's voice returned, faint but alive. Captain, I've routed the last of our power to shields. We can still fly barely. Evelyn smiled. That's all I ever needed. As the ship lifted, fragments of the palace fell away, scattering light like shattered glass. Below them, the capital dissolved into riots and song, alien voices shouting for freedom, for justice, for the ghost who taught them rebellion. Dax leaned back, staring at the chaos. So what now? Retire? Open a coffee shop? Maybe, Evelyn said. But first, we make sure the galaxy learns the right version of this story. Which version is that? Mara asked. The one where humanity didn't conquer anything, she said, eyes fixed on the stars. We just reminded everyone what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. Silence settled between them. Beyond the viewport, the fires dimmed to embers. Somewhere, the Emperor watched the night fall on his world and realized the legend of Baba Yaga would outlive him, not as a villain, but as a mirror. Evelyn reached for her cup, cracked, blackened, still half full of cold coffee, and lifted it in a quiet toast to no one. To family, she whispered. To memory. The honey badger broke through the cloud line, engines flickering, hull glowing red from heat. Behind them, the Empire's golden age collapsed under its own weight. Ahead, only stars and silence awaited. Hutch's voice came one last time, half a chuckle. Captain, I believe the galaxy officially fears you. Good, she said softly. Now maybe it will learn to listen. As the ship disappeared into the endless dark, a final transmission echoed across the void. One human voice, calm and eternal. You can't outlast the species that learned survival by losing everything.